My guest today is Chuck McGee. Chuck is sharing with us his personal Excel spreadsheet for doing weight and balance calculations on the Aerostar, and he's also got some performance functions built into the spreadsheet as well. Chuck, why don't you just give us a brief summary of what brought you to the Aerostar community and which model Aerostar you're flying?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Uh, really what brought me to the Aerostar community was not being able to take a couple trips when I need to go take my wife out to take care of her mom. And we had this was in the January of a couple years ago, and the icing, and I had a very nice 77 V-tail Bonanza, and but without icing capability, and we were stuck at home and couldn't take care of mom. So
Yeah.
that kind of and and I always coming back from Missouri, which is where mom was, coming back, Sunday nights, flying over the Appalachians on a single engine, and always made the hair stand up in the back of my head. So
Yeah.
I'd been thinking about that for a while, and then those two failed trips just, you know, was the icing on the cake to take action. So,
Okay. And which model Aerostar are you flying currently?
yep. So I've got a 700P, 1984 700P,
Great.
and I'm was a computer science major at the Air Force Academy, and so spreadsheets and computer programming are just part of my nature, and so. Uh, I developed this spreadsheet initially, well, and I took it from somebody else in the Bonanza community, and I added some stuff to it. And then when I got the Aerostar, I just transitioned it over and repurposed it to do the same thing for my Aerostar.
That's great. Well, we get to be the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
think you have screen sharing ability, so why don't
okay,
you show us the spreadsheet, kind of walk us through how it functions and what some of its capabilities are.
will do. Okay, do you see the spreadsheet there?
Yeah, there we go.
All right, very good. Okay, so this is the weight and balance portion of the spreadsheet or the workbook. And so I've got this set up for my weight and balance. Uh, and it's a pretty simple spreadsheet. So you put the pilot and the co-pilot's weights, you just put all the weights in here.
Hmm.
Uh, if a lot of times I fly uh without either of the middle seats, so you can put in here just whether you have the seat in or not, and anytime you change something over here, then it's going to actually change the weight and balance dots here uh, on this graph.
Great.
So here I took off the 35 pounds for the co-pilot seat, and you saw everything move down a little bit.
Yeah,
Uh, and
great.
then
And are the arm and moment arm fields locked to where you can't accidentally erase those?
uh, they are not locked right now, but I can do that. In fact, I'll, I'll send you an updated one with those locked if you would like.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that'd be great. We could put that in the resources library of the course.
yeah, yeah. Uh, of course, we'd want to leave your basic empty white open all because those will change based upon your model.
Yeah.
Uh, and then but then you put in the weights for the different passengers front or actually these are middle passengers and rear passengers uh, and then you put in your baggage and that comes up to your total zero fuel weight. Then we put in our wing fuel, main fuselage fuel, aux fuel tank, uh, if you've got it. Come up with a subtotal, whatever number you want to use for your start uh, uh, takeoff, and then how much fuel you're going to use going to your destination from each of the individual tanks. You can put in there how much you're going to use, and and you put in the fuel by gallons in these blocks here, and then it automatically converts it into pounds
Great.
uh, over in this part here.
Great.
Uh, and then and the fuel yields then will calculate what our landing condition is. So it will uh, show both here's our landing center of gravity and weight and our takeoff.
Perfect. That's great. And I
So
noticed that below that, it looks like you have a place where you can edit the weight and balance limits for different aircraft. So for instance, some airplanes that have, if you upgrade to Fiki, that'll change the airplane flight manual supplement may change the aft center of gravity. So here's where you could go in and edit that.
correct,
Great. And you're on
correct.
the first tab there, the Aerostar weight and balance.
Correct, correct. This is the first tab. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just, here I had 40 gallons in here for my ox fuel tank to see what it does. And then if you end up, taking that out, zero, it'll show you what it's going to do here. Now, obviously, my ox tank, I'm not going to use anything on my flight, since I didn't have it to begin with. So.
Yeah.
But again, all this stuff moves based upon whatever information you put in.
Okay. And I notice you also have a place where you can segregate out fuel burn out of each tank. Do you
Correct.
have
Yeah.
do you have sort of a logic in your mind to when during pre-flight planning how much is going to be burned out of the wings versus the fuselage versus the ox?
Uh, well, some of it's just basic assumptions on how the Aerostar fuel management system works. So it's going to start burning out of the wings in the ox tank, or the wings first, and then the ox tank, and then fuselage tank last. So it's uh, a lot of just kind of experience.
So based on head pressure and the fuel
Mhm.
fuel feeding sequence.
Correct.
Yeah. Great.
So so that's our weight and balance. Uh, our my other charts here, uh, and these charts. I I developed these with the Bonanza initially, and then again repurpose it over here. This is was designed to just give me a relative feel for, if I went faster, higher, based upon different winds, what was going to be my optimum uh, altitude and speed uh, for uh, for flying the mission.
Great.
And so I start off up on the top with, you know, uh, how much is an oil change? Uh, uh, how much, what do and this is oil change per hour of flight time.
Uh-huh.
The average expense for an hour on the oil change, my average expense for my annual inspection, what the price of fuel is, where I'm going, uh, which direction am I flying, and that's an actual drop down box. It will change the altitude from even to odd.
Wow.
Uh,
It's really
and
cool.
yeah, and then what my distance is.
Yeah.
And then I go in there, I look at my average wind speed over the course of the flight, and I put all that in here. And then I've got three separate tabs here for different fuel flow and ranges. Uh, uh, on the Bonanza, I actually had these set up for standard day, plus 10, different temperatures. I didn't go through there and do that with the Aerostar. Uh, and then, and these fuel flows are out of the uh, the manual,
Uh-huh.
the POH.
Yeah.
Uh, in actuality, you know, in my experience with my airplane, I'm actually burning more than that. Uh, uh, so, uh, but and for different uh, airplanes, if you find you're running something different, then you could go in here and change what your uh, what your gallons per hour is, and what the true airspeed is.
Yeah, that's useful because back in the day when those POHs were written and they put fuel flow numbers in there,
Hmm.
assuming that you're running either right at, peak or a little, 50 degrees rich of peak or 100 degrees rich of peak, right in that area where now we're learning that's pretty hard on engines. You want to
Yeah,
be you either want to be richer than that or you want to be well on the lean side of peak, one or the other, but not right in that red box zone. So
yep,
it's good that you can go in and adjust these fuel flows for what your mission is.
yep, yep. Uh, and so anyway, so what it does then is it will, take these wind speeds, it will take this distance, and again, it just averages it over the course of the entire flight. It will pull the true air speeds from each of the different forms over here to show, look at what airspeed you're flying. And again, this does not take into account climb, fuel usage.
Yeah.
So again, this is just big picture. This is to get you started. And so uh, so we get the true airspeed, how long it takes, what the fuel flow is, or total fuel usage, and then it combines, based upon the time, it will then uh, also input the cost for your oil change and your annual uh, price, and it will come up with a total cost uh, for each line. Then this thing here looks and find out, okay, which is the cheapest one, and it pulls out the cheapest one.
Well, that's a feature you're not going to see on ForeFlight.
Yeah, and then over here, it takes the best of these, and then it sorts and figures out, okay, the best of these is uh, flying here at max range cruise, 210 knots, how much time it is, the fuel flow, fuel used, and then total cost for the trip.
I think this spreadsheet would be helpful not only for flight planning purposes, but for people who are thinking about getting into an Aerostar that
Yes,
have questions about payload versus range and cost per seat mile or whatever the questions they have about the airplane. This will help them kind of get a feel for it.
for sure. Definitely.
Great.
But
Well, thank you for
uh,
sharing this with the Aerostar community. Really appreciate that.
you're welcome.
Anything else on the spreadsheet that people need to know about?
I don't think so. I tried to keep it pretty simple, and
Perfect.
so
Perfect. Well, thanks again.
you're welcome.
Appreciate your contribution to the Aerostar world.
Happy to share.